listening to Serenity Radio Network on Jerry Royce Live Worldwide at PositivePower21.org. We thank you for joining us. You can also find us on Elation Radio. Serenity is a Christian-based multicultural empowerment station that focuses on the mind, body, and spirit. The program specializes in bringing to the listeners the very best from the healing arts community on the subjects of self, health care, spiritual healing, and kingdom living. Serenity Radio is sponsored by the Serenity Weight Loss and Detoxification Program. To enroll, contact Michelle Edmonds, a.k.a. the Godmother, at 404-445-8579, or hit them up on Facebook at Serenity Weight Loss. The next voice that you hear will be that of our awesome host. Hey everyone, my name is Michelle Edmonds, and yes, they do call me the Godmother. I am pleased to welcome you to this Friday late lunch special show. We're going to be airing for the entire month of April, and this is just a special platform for a very, very special person that hasn't been in my life for very long, actually, but she has filled it up so much, and I'm so honored to have met her and to provide this platform for her. Now, as you know, if you came in early, we were jamming. This is on a Friday afternoon. Some of you have had rough weeks. Some of you just need to unwind, slow down. So we kicked back with some jazz. You were listening to Motown jazz favorites, instrumentals. I hope you enjoyed that. But before we go ahead and get started, I want to make sure we have our awesome host, because everyone, I'm not the host today. I am just being the engineer, and I'm just going to make sure everything goes smoothly for Dana Andrews. And my sister, are you in the house? Are you in the broadcast room?
Yes, I am.
Ready to rock and roll, huh?
Absolutely.
Wonderful, wonderful. We have an awesome topic for you. I happen to be privy to what we are talking about before the rest of y'all, but I'm going to be quiet, and I am going to turn the mic over to Dana Andrews. She is an author, and you got to pick up her awesome book. It's coming out soon, Room in the Heart. But we're going to talk about some real good stuff today. Dana, take it away, girl.
Okay, well, thanks. It's so nice to be here. So I thought that we would talk about hopelessness today. Hopelessness is something many of us have, depending on your circumstances. I've experienced this personally from both a weight point of view and depression and abuse point of view. And where they come together is that it's a major challenge. You can read, you can talk to people, but it's got to stem from within. So I thought I would start with before I healed, I lived on a steady diet of hopelessness. Everything seemed doomed for failure, and even, I think people could probably relate to this, even the most menial tasks seemed impossible. There were some days I wanted to stay in bed, even though I couldn't sleep. My dreams were nightmares that consumed me, and for many years, the only thing that gave me any reprieve from that, or reprieve rather, was creating. I would songwrite, I would, create artwork. Those things helped a little bit. But then every time I was abused, I would not be able to create anything for days. And some days, even breathing seemed too hard. So that's like the background. And then people often ask how to keep hope alive when you're in the midst of an abusive situation. And the first thing I say is get out. Do not stay. Oftentimes our abusers will give and take because that's the only way they can keep us in the abusive mode. So what will happen is, 1 minute they'll be abusive and we retreat And then when they feel like we're going to leave, that's when they come and do nice things. And then we start to think, well, maybe we imagined it. And for me, with food, it was the same thing. I would have all my favorite things on hand so that when I was having a bad day, just go for the food, the Oreos, whatever it was. And I realized that getting away from that, not having it in the house, was really important, because once you're away from your abuser, your food, whatever it is, you begin to gain strength. And what's really interesting is that it's so important when you're in that cycle of either healing from abuse or losing the weight, and things start looking bleak. That's when you have to do what I call change the channel and put yourself in training for how things will be after you've healed.
What I heard you say that I wanted to underline is that is the cycle of abuse, then you being abused retreat. Mm-hmm. The other person then panics and thinks you're leaving, and then they get nice again.
Yes. Yep. And it's the same thing with food, too. You get away from it, you feel great, and then you happen upon something, whatever it is that is your weakness or your red light food. And then you say, well, I can deal with this. And it's the same thing with the abuser. Well, it's been a while. I'm stronger. Things will change now. And you go right back to it. And so when I say change the channel, it's when you need to not even put yourself in that place anymore and shift to looking around. Like, look around you, look at others, and start really deciding if you would want to emulate them, if you think that different aspects of their lives you would really embrace. And so what happens then is you start having something to look forward to. It kind of, when you see certain things that really make you happy, it imprints on your heart. And then when they surface later on, you begin to embrace them.
And when you talk about things that make you happy, I'm drawn to your pictures on your Facebook page of your cottage. I didn't want to get you off track, but it was so peaceful just looking at it. Can you share a little bit about that and what it does for you?
Absolutely. As a child, my escape from my abusers, basically that was my mother and some other family members. My escape was to go outside, and I always dreamed of a little place, like in the bushes or under a tree, something that was like surrounded, and then in the middle, it was just, I would decorate it with, I'd pick flowers, I'd make little designs with stones, and that was my happy place. And I dreamed that one day I would have a little cottage. And sure enough, we had this beautiful old tree on our property that died. And my daughter said, Mom, you should really put something there. And I thought, this is my chance. Mm-hmm. And when my dad died, he left me a very small amount of money, and it was just enough to build this little 10 by 12 cottage. You can see it actually if you go on the Facebook page and also on IamDanaAndrews.com. It's called Lavender Nest Cottage, and when I go in there, it just fills me with this wonderful feeling of it's all going to be okay.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. And the point being that all of us need to have a cottage, not necessarily the building, meaning a cottage, right?
Absolutely. And I actually wrote 2 blog posts about that. One of them is about having a cottage, and the other one is what's in your cottage.
Right.
And what you put inside is so important. And I remember the very first time when my cottage was finally finished, I got to help build it. It was wonderful. Finally, we got electricity, and I just laid down on the couch in there. It's a little love seat, and I just looked up and I said, this is what 100% happiness feels like.
That is awesome. Everyone has to have a place like that. Mm-hmm. And I just want to add, it really could just be a closet, though.
It could be a room in your house.
Right.
You just take everything out of there, paint your favorite color on the walls. Just even simplicity. Your favorite candle, like inside of my cottage, smells like lavender, always.
That's my favorite.
Yeah, it's so you need a change. That's what changing the channel is, because when you're stuck in that mode of abuse or post-abuse, you can't get out. You can't see a way out. That's when you create some safe space and make it what you want. I've been asked how sometimes hope will seem really risky. Like you'll feel worse if you allow yourself to hope. And so many have asked, were you ever afraid to hope? And I have to be honest that to me, it still is an issue. And I think that the most important thing is to be realistic and know that whether it has to do with food or abuse, you will have what I call leftovers. And I wrote a recent blog post about that one. And leftovers are the things that the damage that can't completely be healed or reversed. But the good news is that as long as we're aware of those, then we can overcome them. We can see them coming and know what to do when they're there in front of us. Really, with this whole issue of fearing hope, it basically comes down to the reality that all our hopes we ever had were dashed. We were crushed. Everything, our future seemed destroyed. So everyone has their own way of handling it. But what I have found really works, and this is not anything I planned, but any situation which involves others, which is most situations, I approach it as though I am not the one who has total control. And so I just need to let it be and be realistic and expect nothing. Expect everything from myself, but expect nothing from the other person. So that if worse comes to worse and that's what happens, I was realistic and I try and change it or, change the channel. But most often I'll be very surprised because they will also kind of, I guess, mimic my passion and they'll actually come through. And then I am so happy. It's like a wonderful kind of surprised happiness. I find that really has helped a lot. Like getting on the scale. I can say to myself, I had a great week. The scale may not reflect that, but as long as I keep doing what I'm doing, it eventually will. It's the same thing with healing. I might be having a bad day, but if I keep focused on, what I want, eventually I will get there.
I love the term that you use, and I'm going to steal it from you. If you see it around, yes, it came from you. And I love the term leftovers, emotional leftovers, and that people never completely heal everything. And that's a myth, that we're all done. Like a steak. We get to the point where everything is done. That's not true.
No. And a big part of all of this is being realistic, because we are so hard on ourselves. And that's another big thing that also has to do with the eating and the abuse. People say, and my mother always would say, if you get fat, it's your fault. And she was no one to talk. So it's not as though she had control either. But my point is, many people say, in Christianity, you really would be expected to forgive your abuser. And I say you need to forgive yourself.
I agree.
Because we are our own abusers when we constantly say, I have to hold the secret, I can't tell anyone, I let it happen, there must be something I did. You need to forgive yourselves, because really what happens is you didn't bring it on. The only thing that really revolved around you was that you weren't able to stop it. Either we didn't know better, the other person was physically more powerful. Whatever it is, you need to forgive yourself, because you survived. You're a survivor. So empower yourself to know that you didn't bring it on yourself, but also revisit, and this is where therapy really comes in. If you revisit that, the abuse from where you are now, it is so empowering because you can say what you would have said, not what you wish you would have said, but what you would say if this were happening to you as an adult. And the reason I think therapy is so crucial is when the abuse happened, we did not have the life experiences to be able to say, this is not okay, what you're doing is abuse. Mm-hmm. And so it ends up being internalized from where we were at that time. And that's what haunts us and continues to abuse us. It's like the person is living in our head rent-free.
Right. And, I want to also add, I know a gentleman, 62 years old, who is the survivor of abuse when he was 6 years old. Mm. And he still hasn't told anyone with the exception of me. Mm. Number one, I want to make sure that everyone knows it's not just women who experience abuse. We really are being very unfair to men to imply that, and we don't mean to do that. Mm-hmm. We know it's happening to men too, little boys too. And then number two, this issue of keeping it to yourself, shh, don't tell anyone, that's what gives it all its power. Don't you agree, Dana? That's where the charge comes from.
It's horrible, and that's why that is really the impetus for my writing my book. It's just a very common, it's a fallacy. And I noticed it even within my family. My husband was initially very, very uncomfortable. You don't need to tell people that. And he wasn't putting me down or being disrespectful. He feared that others would feel uncomfortable.
Right. Don't tell all your business. Right.
And I find it's actually especially men who have a hard time with admitting and really embracing the fact this did happen. But the more people do come out with it and say, you know what, this was done to me. I did not ask for this. Mm-hmm. They're actually helping others. It's so important to reach out and share, because it doesn't say anything about you as a person except that you're a survivor and you don't want others to deal with this. And as a sexual assault nurse, I would always tell my patients that this does not define you, but you can be the silent hero by letting others know what happened to you. Mm-hmm. It's so important.
And in knowing that truly, in my viewpoint, gives you hope. Oh, the thought that I can just talk this out, react it all over again, get rid of it. There is a way to move on, and that is one way. Mm-hmm. Reenact it, say what you would have said, what you wish you would have said, so that you can move on.
And also, I think it's really, absolutely, and I think too, it's so important that we reach out, because healing is the way to healing. The best way I have found to healing is when you help others heal. It is so amazingly empowering. It's crazy. It's like crazy good. And that's when I started the Facebook page. So many people would message me and say, this is what happened. I never told anyone. Mm-hmm. And that's when I say, find people who are safe. And another thing that's really important in healing, it goes along hand in hand with forgiving ourselves, is knowing that we all have different approaches and different reactions and different effects. Many people become very bitter. They can't find a way to trust others. I just got a message the other day from someone who said, I can't trust anyone. Mm-hmm. And my point with that is that therapy is so helpful. Do whatever you can to find a therapist. And if the first one you find really isn't a good match, just keep looking, because the trust stems from that relationship there. And then you learn how to slowly reach out and learn who is safe, So that's a real big one. We have to be some of us are so much harder on ourselves than on anyone else. As a matter of fact, just the other day I said to my husband, oh my gosh, I treat myself, if I treated others the way I treat myself when it comes to the leftovers, I would have no friends. We need to, I treat others, I'm so kind and respectful, but with myself I say, why did you do that? And that's part of learning. I have to change a channel and say, you're human, you've healed, look at all you have done. Mm-hmm. So we need to be kinder to ourselves.
Absolutely. And because of what I do, in that I am a counseling psychologist and a nutritionist, of course, mm-hmm. I look at how we even deprive ourselves of good nourishment. Yes. And many times we don't even think about that being a way of not showing self-love. Mm-hmm. Do you realize you didn't even feed your body today?
It's funny you say that, because that was so helpful in my losing weight, was not ever saying what I cannot have, because as you have said, food is neither good nor bad. It's how it affects you.
Right.
But what I found is another empowering thing, having your favorite foods. That is so important. Favorite healthy foods that really feed your soul as well as your body.
That's right. I love that one too. Favorite healthy foods that feed your soul and your body. And many of you deny yourself even that, something as basic as that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But then it's funny because God forbid if anybody touches that food.
Exactly, Dana. But then
that's when we turn into a big bad monster.
Right.
I always say to my kids, do not touch my favorite fruits, because you will find out why mother animals eat their young.
Yes, you will learn very quickly. Isn't that is an interesting paradox, isn't it? Right.
It is.
And the self-talk is often very negative, but many times we're very, very, very touchy if anyone says anything to us or looks at us cross-eyed.
Oh, absolutely.
Very touchy.
Yes, I just got a message this morning. Someone, my son's getting married, and we are looking at dresses for the mother of the bride. And somebody made a comment. You look heavy in that dress.
Yikes!
And my highest was 240 pounds, and now I'm down to like a size 10. So, people don't necessarily mean things by it, but that's where we need to talk to ourselves and say, how do I feel? How am I eating? And if those things are all good, and even if you had a bad food day, it's okay. There's tomorrow. The sun will rise. We can start again. God gave us a new day.
That's right. That's so good. Oh, keep going, Dana. I'm
okay, so
got you off track.
Many people have said, do you have hopes that have come true? Are there things you hoped for in the past that didn't come true? And how do you feel about unmet hopes? And I have to say, so many hopes have come true. One really interesting one that I think is just, I'm not, quote unquote, the God Squad, because I know everyone has their own religious beliefs, but I have to say this was what made me believe in God. So ever since I was very little, my mother always said to me, you were a mistake, and we were going to abort you.
Oh, dear.
And then she said, but we thought you might be the boy that we wanted. So I blew it twice.
Dear. Yeah, you did. Yeah.
So when we had our fourth child, we had 3 boys and a girl, and we never tried for a girl. I always said to my husband, as I want whatever God wants me to have as long as it's healthy. And I became pregnant with our 5th child, and my husband said, this is going to be ridiculous. We can't afford this. And I immediately I said, this is God speaking here. this is my chance to undo all of this. And I've always said that's important, is that I always said growing up, my one big hope was, I used to say it to ask God, I said, I will take as many children as you will give me so I can undo my childhood as many times as possible. So when Nicole, our baby, came along, from as soon as she could even understand anything, I would always say, you are our miracle baby. Mm-hmm. You are the gift from God. And she loves it, and I love it. And that's, honestly, if you look at that, how amazing was that gift from God?
Absolutely.
That I got to turn things around and never say you're a mistake. If she asks, I would say you're on plan, but she was planned in my heart because I wasn't done with 4.
You were done. You were not done.
Yeah, little did my husband know. So she's been amazing. But so that was one dream that came true. Another one was I used to lie in bed and cry myself to sleep most nights, and I would always say, God, please just give me one day of happiness. I want to know what happiness feels like. And I'll tell you something, once you heal, even though the process can really be painful because you're revisiting all the things that hurt you to begin with, when you overcome and you heal, it is incredible how many days, one after another, are just happy. It's just amazing. Even when you're not having a good day, it's still happy. So that's pretty incredible. And I'm trying to think of a few things. Oh, my biggest hope, I would have to say, other than my husband and kids who have just turned my life around and given me so much happiness, my biggest hope was writing this book because I felt that it needed to be everything I wish I had when I was going through all of the abuse and trying to heal. There wasn't anything that really appealed to me the way that my book did. Because when I go through and read it again, which I was terrified to do, it really portrays like a lot of the very abusive experiences, but then every chapter is balanced by a story about my own family. And it shows the healing in every single chapter. So and any dream that did not come true, by the way, either I decide that, first I say it was not meant to be, or I say it's not now. It might be later.
Either was it meant to be or just not now.
Mm-hmm.
That is awesome. Yeah. And what I hear you saying is, and that's so important that everyone get this, because we spent a lot of time on it during this week, actually, this issue of outing issues, outing your stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because you even said it was difficult to go back and read your own material, your own book.
I was terrified.
Terrified.
Absolutely terrified. I had 3 different editors. 2 of the editors came right out. One was a man, one was a woman, and they said, your book made me cry. Your mother made me cry. I hate your mother. And yet, this was not a mommy dearest sort of book.
Right.
But, what happens, this is what people need to really embrace. When you tell yourself, yes, this did happen, and when you find others who are safe and you share it with them, you then move on from keeping it in to letting it out to owning yourself, to saying, this happened to me, it's not okay, now I'm moving on. But when you don't admit it to anyone, and I shouldn't say admit, but tell or share, then you're holding it in and it continues to abuse you. So your abuser's staying alive, even if they're long gone or dead.
That's right. That is such an important point, and I really hope my community heard that, and when you listen to this broadcast on demand, please catch hold of that, everyone. Serenity, Weight Loss, and Detoxification team members, you know that we have to out You have to be authentic in your experiences and out it, and so that you can take the charge off of it. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, as you said, Dana, the abuse continues.
Absolutely.
That is just an awesome, awesome point. We're at the top of the hour already, Dana. On that note, I'd like you to share what your book is again, the name of it, and how they can contact you.
Okay, it's Room in the Heart, Surviving a Childhood Undone, Fulfilling a Pact to Love. And it will be available on Amazon and Create Space, but that's not till the 18th. But in the meantime, if you go to my blog website, which is IamDanaAndrews.com, you can also go to Facebook, and it's also I Am Dana Andrews, and you can find all sorts of information there. But there's a contest where if you share a link on your wall and you like that page, I Am Dana Andrews, you can win one of 3 signed books or 10 ebooks.
Wonderful, wonderful. Lessons from Survival is the name of this show. We're going to be airing for Late Lunch every Friday in April, and we're going to be focusing on an aspect of survival each week. This week was hope. We hope you were blessed by this. I want to thank my host, Dana, for this awesome message. I know my community in particular really got it because we have been talking about that this week, Dana. And so I know that it really blessed them. Thank you so much, everyone. I appreciate you. I see you. For those of you that showed up live for the broadcast, I appreciate you. Dana, we have a group that's sitting there. They're waving at you.
I wave back. God bless you all.
Looks like about, oh my goodness, just shy of 50, Dana. And with that said, everyone, we thank you. We'll be here next week for Late Lunch, 1:30 p.m. And this was Dana Andrews, and her show is Lessons from Survival. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm Michelle Edmonds, and this was Serenity Radio Network. We love you. Bye-bye.